Hello, friends. Welcome back to Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. I am joined by a very special guest today, Paloma Siepak. She is a Stylist Soul Tribe member. She's an independent stylist and booth renter in Southern California who specializes in balayage, extensions, and personalized guest experience. Paloma is actually going to be a speaker on the Nurture panel at our upcoming resource fair because that is absolutely her superpower. It has been such a joy getting to know her over the last couple of years inside of SST, and I am so grateful that she was willing to come on and share her story with you all today. Paloma, how are you doing, friend?
Hi, Lisa. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for being brave enough. I don't know what order I'm going to release these episodes, so spoiler alert, whichever one comes out first. We did a episode with all of Soul Tribe 20. So that had Jen, who's been on the podcast, and all the rest of your Soul Tribe 20 members. And we did that a month ago now, because that was the day I was waiting for my internet to get set up after I moved into my new house. So it was a month ago. And then Paloma was like, I think I want to come on and like share my own story personally. And I was like, girl, you should like do it. I always need to be batch recording episodes. You totally should. And so I'm going to preface, you'll hear with her story along the way, but I don't even know what I'll title this or how to put it into words, but Paloma has a really special and unique situation where, correct me if these words are not the right way to put it, but where you really thought that you were going to go a different direction with your life and your career. You really thought there was going to be a different trajectory. And it's been really inspiring to watch you, one, own that, recognize that, come to that conclusion, and then like figure out what direction you wanted to go from there and like accept and love and lean into that moving forward. Is that a fair way to say that? Like that's going to be kind of what we're discussing today.
Yeah, that's a really good explanation of what has happened. I had this very clear path of what my passion was,
Mm.
what I wanted to do with my life. And it was just kind of like this opportunity to become part of the hair industry kind of fell into my lap while I was discovering that path.
Yeah.
And it's just been like a whole whirlwind of a story to get to this point
Mm.
because I struggled a lot with worthiness, feeling that I
Mm.
deserved to be here and that there was a place for me in the industry because my heart was somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like,
Why don't we take it back quite a bit so that they know the story leading up to there. So you've heard the podcast a million times. Start back whatever feels appropriate and kind of start to share your journey, what direction you thought you were going to go, how the industry kind of fell into your lap, all that jazz. And as I do, I'm sure I'll interrupt you. We'll go on a few different tangents, but let's just go from there.
okay, so yeah, so graduating high school, I've always been a performer. My
Mhm.
parents are both singers, dancers, musicians. I've always been around the entertainment industry and I wanted to do musical theater. Broadway was like my dream. I saw
Yeah.
Wicked for the first time. It was my favorite show. And I was like,
Mm.
I can do that. Like, I never knew that that was a real like career. I knew my
Mm.
parents did it like on the side, but I didn't know I could do that. And I just like fell in love with it. And I just went full force and applied for all the colleges that were arts schools.
Mm.
And I went to college to get my degree in musical theater.
Mm.
So I started that, and the university that I went to allowed me to go half of the way, and then you had to kind of audition into the program.
Mm.
And there were all these steps you had to like, they were called juries. You had to do a scene with a
Okay.
partner, sing a couple songs, and then pass your tests in jazz, tap, and ballet to be considered. And then
Mhm.
they took 5 girls and 5 boys into the program to finish with the BFA.
Wow.
And I unfortunately did not pass one of my assessments.
Mhm.
And when you don't pass your assessment, they don't allow you to continue on in the program. So I
Ever. Like you don't get to retest. What would you have to do if you like said, no, I'm not giving up on this?
So you can, I was still eligible to jury, but
Okay.
I couldn't take any of the classes because they place
Okay.
you. So
Okay.
they're like, I technically wasn't out, but you can only jury one time. And
Okay.
essentially they're weeding out. And
Wow.
like, unfortunately, there was a lot of politics at the school that I went to. And I just kind of felt like if they're kicking me out now,
It's
why?
never gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so I thought, like, well, I don't want to just settle and change my degree to something else. I really want this musical theater degree. So I'm going to leave and I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to work on my skills and transfer
Wow.
to another college so that I can get my degree in musical theater, which is what I
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah.
And so in that time, it was mid-semester and I couldn't really transfer anywhere. And so I'm like, well,
Mhm.
I mean, what am I going to do for this time? And so my Nina, who's my godmother, she
Mhm.
has been a salon owner for 30 years.
Mhm.
She and I are very, very close. We were together all the time when I was young. And
Yeah.
we were talking at Christmas one time, and she's like, so what are you going to do? Like,
Mm.
what is your plan now since you've left? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess I'll just figure it out. And she's
Yeah.
like, well, have you ever considered doing hair? I'm like,
Wow.
no, not really. Like that wasn't
Yeah.
really on my radar. And she's like, well, I mean, I have a chair if you want. It's like a flexible career. I understand what you're doing, and I would support you
Mm.
to continue going to school, doing your
Wow.
theater. But in the meantime, you would have something else that helps you to make money, that has a
Mm.
flexible schedule, that has a boss that supports your dreams. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, well, I'm not doing anything else. And she's like, just
Yeah.
go get your license and you have a place here. And so it just
Mhm.
kind of fell into my lap. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, I have nothing else to do. So why not? It's
What
creative, it's
age were you
artistic.
at that point?
I was 19, I
Okay.
believe this was
Yeah.
2009 or yeah, 2008. And then I started hair school in 2009.
Okay.
So I was just kind of like, all right, let's go. Let's see how
Mm.
this works out. But the plan was always still to keep pushing for the theater.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's kind of like how I got started, and
Yeah.
it just took off. I mean, I wasn't,
And so when then you started that, you went to beauty school, you started working behind the chair. What was that transition from when I met you to, was theater? When did theater, was it still 50-50 part? How did that slowly trickle? Did something happen where we were like, I'm setting that down? How did that transition go?
so I continued I moved to a community college, and I was going to hair school in the evening, and I was going to theater classes in the day. And
Okay.
that was a 2-year program. I got my license. I started working behind the chair like the next day after I got my
Mm-hmm.
license. And it was very, at that time, so I've been doing hair for 13 years. And at that time, it was like, you just have to come and sit here and wait.
Yep.
And
Wait for walk-ins. Yep.
yeah, take everything, learn. I was watching, I was helping, I was just, assisting as best I could,
Mm-hmm.
and like still going to school. And then I wasn't really building. And she's like, well, you're not here. It's hard for you to take clients if you're not here. And like they come in,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, well, she won't be here till 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. Come back.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to take a break from school. I'm just going
Mm.
to be here. I'm going to do
Yeah.
this. And so I just did that. I quit my job. I was hosting at a restaurant. I quit my job
Okay.
there. And I just sat every day, I came, and then I did a lot of community theater in the evenings just for
Okay.
fun.
Yeah.
And it's like I still wasn't growing. And I'm like, why is this not happening? And I'm a
Mm-hmm.
very big believer in like the universe has plans. And so I was thinking like my big break is coming. And this is why I don't have
Mm-hmm.
clients yet, because
Mm.
I'm going to get something and I'm going to have to leave. And so,
Yeah.
at that time, cruise ships, all these things were things. And
Mm.
so I just left it at that. And like it started getting to a point where I was getting older and I still wasn't building. And I'm like, what's
Yeah.
going on? Like I've been doing the things, I've been sitting here, I've been coming. And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you're not hungry and you're doing two
Mm.
things and you can't
And it's
like,
fair to say that deep down, truthfully, you didn't want to grow like a massive clientele, right? I mean, it would have been nice to get you by for the meantime, but you knew you were waiting for the big break. You were waiting to walk away from the entire clientele at any moment, right?
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
I was. And it came to,
Mm.
she's like, you're going to have to choose what you want to do because it's hard to put your heart in both places and be
Yeah.
successful. And like, I know that was like from the heart and it didn't mean what I took it to mean, but
Mm.
I took it to mean if you choose one thing, you give up the other.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that. Like in my
Yeah.
heart, I couldn't say, I'm not going to be a performer anymore. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't
That was your
true.
identity. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I held on to that for a long time. And I think it hindered a lot of my growth.
Mm.
And I just like wasn't doing anything. So I'm like, you know what? I feel guilty. I didn't finish my degree. I'm going to go back to school.
Mm.
So I went back to school and I thought, I'm not going to do theater because I could have just done it then. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get my business degree. This is for my, to grow my hair business. It's
Yeah.
something I can learn and I'll get that piece of paper. Did that for about a year, hated it, hated
Mm.
everything to do with business. It wasn't anything about hair business. It was,
Yeah.
the typical stuff. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to go back to theater so I could finish this degree. That's the
Yeah.
closest I've got. And I went for about I transferred back to the original university I went to,
Okay.
took a winter class, and started the next semester. And about a week and a half in, I was so stressed out
Mm,
with everything that I'm like, I can't do this.
no,
I can't do it.
this
And
isn't right either. Yeah.
I couldn't. And then I'm not a quitter. And I felt like I was disappointing everybody
Mm,
by like deciding to leave. And I had to have a heart to heart with my mom and dad. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't want to let you down, but like,
mhm.
I can't do it. Like, I don't know. And they're like, we're not disappointed. We want to
Yeah.
help you. We want you to be
Yeah.
happy. We
Mm,
want to support you with whatever you want to do.
yeah.
And that's all we care about, that you're happy. We're here for you. If this, whatever direction it is, like,
Mm,
you don't have to feel guilty because your path changed.
mm,
So you didn't get a BA, you got your license to do hair. Are you planning to leave that? And I was like, well, at
mhm.
this point, no. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay doing this. Like, then why waste your time? Why waste
Yeah.
your money? You're only young once. School will be
Mhm.
there. Spend
Yeah.
your money and your time investing in your career and your skills. Grow your business.
Yeah.
Do what, like,
Here would you say that conversation took place?
that was about 7 years after I started, so
Okay.
2018.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, they're not disappointed. I'm just gonna do it. And so
Yeah.
I immediately signed up for a skills class with Lisa
Mm,
Loves Balayage. I'm sure a lot of people know
yeah.
who she is, because
Yeah.
I decided that I really wanted to be a blonding specialist. And it was
Mhm.
something that I always wanted for myself and to be able to
Mhm.
give to others. And
Yeah.
so I just started there, and I
Yeah.
took class after class after class of
You started to
skills.
get that hunger that
Yes.
your godmother said years ago. Like that's what it took, but it turned out your parents' like approval was almost what allowed you to have that hunger, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it just kind of started going from there.
Hmm.
And so I did that. And then I started dabbling with social media and I took a class for that. And then I found Thrivers
Yeah.
in 2019 of the fall and
Mhm.
dove into that. And then it was shut down. So I'm
Mm,
like, well, I guess like that was a sign, because I had found her a little bit before, maybe a
yeah.
year or two before, and I didn't follow through.
Hmm.
And then this time I thought, I'm doing it. I'm committed this time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just deciding that I'm going to be successful here, whatever it
Mm.
takes. Like,
I
so
want
what
to
if,
pause on that because I vividly remember that feeling too. And I think anyone that does see mega success or any bit of success, people who don't experience that don't realize how much intention has to go into it. Like, you don't just, that doesn't just happen on its own. I vividly remember thinking that as well. Like, okay, what I'm doing right now isn't working. I am gonna like I know I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna do whatever it takes. I'm not gonna stop. And I don't think everybody realizes that that is a conscious thought for everybody who does anything of importance or that anyone finds impressive. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that I really relate to that as well.
yeah. And
Mhm.
I was like, so what if it's not my passion? I'm going to be good at it, and I'm going to
Yeah.
do the best, because when I decide I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Like, I know
Hmm.
that I'm committed. And so that was kind of in the back of my mind, but I didn't care. I'm like, it's fine. I'll like it someday. It'll be
Yeah.
fine. Like, we'll get
Mm.
there. And I just like dove in, and I started having fun. And like, I was grateful that I had the program, because I felt like it really helped me to build that foundation
Direction.
and to
Hmm.
nurture my clients enough that they stayed, and
Mm.
they supported me through. We were closed for 30 weeks here
That's
in Southern California.
so
So
crazy. Yeah.
it was very crazy. And like, it just, again, a universal thing that like, I may have not had the time had I
Hmm.
done it without the shutdown. I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but it was something for me
Absolutely.
to go, and all these things that I never thought I would do. Like, oh, I
Hmm.
have a website. What? Like, I never thought I'd have
Hmm.
a website. I have an app for
Yeah.
my clients. We have this booking thing. We're doing all this stuff, like things that were just foreign to me then, because I didn't have any example of that.
Totally.
And I just went full force with that. And then I started joining some other business programs. I joined PVP
Mm-hmm.
with Hunter,
Mm-hmm.
and I found you after
Yeah.
that. And what drew me in with Soul Tribe was like, the other programs were amazing. I credit a lot of success to them, but
Mm-hmm.
they grew so fast and so big that I started feeling left behind. And I crave community, especially doing theater. We do a show, we become so close with each other. We know everyone. And when
Yeah.
I started to feel like I don't know everyone, a lot of this content is speaking to the masses wherever
Mm,
you're at, I started feeling left
mhm.
behind. I started feeling like, man, I'm doing so much work and I'm not getting there. It's
Well,
not
and doesn't that go
happening.
to show too, just because I relate to this so much, like I created Soul Tribe out of that like desire for connection that I had once that was starting to like I wanted to expand upon that. And isn't that wild that you thought that the passion was theater, and maybe in some ways it still was, but as soon as you felt part of a community, it's almost like, oh, I guess it doesn't really matter what we're doing, but I have my people. I have like someone to show up for. I have people to lean on. Like to me, I say that all the time. I mean, I'm behind the chair a little bit now still, but not much, but it's still just that like deeper, this feels good getting up every day and like having people in your corner, and like you said, you related that to the theater, experience so much. And then once you found that, you were like, okay, I'm actually more content with that. So I vividly remember from my perspective hearing this, not this deep of your story, but a part of your story during a vision casting workshop because I'm so woo and I'm like, put anything you could ever want on a vision board, like all the law of attraction, manifestation things, say that. And I remember you sharing that, Paloma, and even still hearing you talk about this, I'm still like, it's not too late. It's never too late. Like your big break or whatever. Like, I don't think anybody should ever let that go. But then also, how do we live with this healthy, balanced, how do we navigate that while also not feeling upset with the current moment, but being open to something happening in the future? And so I remember kind of struggling with coaching you through that because I didn't want to just say like forget it, but you also had come through so many realizations of like that's not what you're hardcore pursuing right now. Like I vividly do remember that. And then I remember you doing a show. And then obviously, and I brought this up before we hit record, I remember your experience at the retreat. What was that, just in May? Was that this
It
last
was,
retreat?
yeah, last
Yeah.
year.
So it was a year ago, and I remember you opening up, and when you said it at the retreat, I'd obviously heard it before. I guess I didn't realize how heavy that was still weighing on you and how much of like your story and your identity that was. And I remember obviously like Kristen pouring into you and your tribe pouring into you and your group. And I'd love to like shift that. That was my perspective. I'd love to hear what progressed through Soul Tribe and even where you're at today. And even if it's not perfectly tied up with a bow, that's okay too. But how did you start to put that puzzle together and see, you know, either your vision and your goals changing and or finding contentment in the meantime?
I think the biggest thing with Soul Tribe especially is that like I really wanted someone to care about me, like not me
Mm.
as a stylist, but me as a person, as Paloma, where I'm at right now,
Yep.
and like to be able to
Every
open up
part of
about,
you. Yeah.
yes, and how it was affecting my business.
Mm.
And my tribe really did that for me.
Mhm.
And they continue to do that. And you'll hear if the episode hasn't aired yet, just the special bond that we have together. And then I mentioned it in that one too, that it was like such an identity crisis that I couldn't see past that. And I was struggling to fill my books and I couldn't figure out because you and I had been working for a year. We've had one-on-ones, we had hot seats, we had all the things. And I'm like, we're doing everything. Why can't I get these clients? What
Yeah.
is wrong? And
Mhm.
it came down to at the retreat when we did the homework that it was a block that I like maybe it was subconsciously pushing away or telling the universe I didn't want that because I felt like such a fraud that I didn't belong here because
Mhm.
this opportunity fell in my lap. And when I, would think about so many other people that I heard talking about how I've always wanted to be a stylist. This is my
Mhm.
passion. I dreamed of it. I did this when I was a kid. All
Mhm.
of those things was none of my story.
Yeah.
And I felt
Absolutely.
like, well, why am I taking up a space when someone else here
Mhm.
wants it so bad? And I would think
Mhm.
that about actors that I would see not appreciating their opportunities and
Mhm.
think, I want what you have so bad and you don't appreciate it. Like, move over for me. And
Yeah.
so I felt like I was doing that to somebody else in this industry. And like everyone there was like, no, you've worked hard. You've done all the things to earn a place here. And
Mhm.
just because this is what makes you money doesn't mean you're not that. Like it doesn't mean you have to give up who you are.
Mhm.
Just work around it. And so then I started thinking about it and thinking about it a lot, like at that trip,
Yeah.
about what I valued
Mhm.
and how those values are really what like pushed my decision to commit because I was getting older. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have a family someday. I want them to be close to my family, to my husband's family. Like, I don't want to be wondering where my next paycheck is going to be. And I knew my skill. Like, I know that I'm good, but I didn't know that like I wanted to commit to like really focusing on like pushing, the audition situation and taking classes in the voice. It's expensive and it's a lot of work, and I'd have to take off work to do that. I just got married. We have financial responsibilities. We want to buy a house. Like, those things came up.
And seeing the possibilities and people around you and the lifestyle that people are living and being like, oh yeah, this industry does provide you that. And I'm going to go back to that realization. I just want to say it again and highlight it because especially, maybe not all hairstylists, maybe if you actually look at all cosmetologists, this probably doesn't affect as many, but I think the cosmetologists that are listening to this, like, we're a different breed. We almost identify with our business so strongly that we lose sight of who we are outside of that. And I loved that realization. I love that holistic approach of like, you can still have this be your job and fulfill other passions, and you can be a multifaceted person without having to totally give up one or the other, or like totally have this like identity thing where it can only be one. And I'm so glad that you guys were able to come to that realization. I don't know who said it first or how that came across, but I think there's probably a lot of people listening to this that need to hear that. I know myself included. Like, we definitely get wrapped up in that in entrepreneurship.
Yes, and that's why like I felt called to tell the story, because I felt like this is something that I needed when I was in that place, and I would have wanted to hear that from someone else, or just to open the doors that like not everyone starts off because their passion is hair. Like, it just leads you there. And it was Kristen Sozman that spoke to me at lunchtime at the retreat. This was on the last day,
I remember
like,
sitting at the end of that table. Yeah.
and she was like, why did you why are you feeling like this? And I was like, well, I don't know. I just feel like I don't belong here. I wanted to do this. And she's like, well, why didn't you do that? I'm like, and I just like had this breakdown of like, I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I could. And she's like, so then why, you're blaming being a hairstylist because you made a decision. Like, you are like essentially holding resentment towards your career because you didn't do something that you really wanted to do. But why did you? It was, and it was like, why did you become a stylist? I'm like, well, I wanted flexibility. I wanted free time. I wanted to be there for every important event that happened. And she's like, well, do you do that? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I do that. And I still do theater. And she's like, your passion doesn't have to be your job, because you might resent that someday. Like, your job is providing all of the values that you had, and you can still do what you love and not rely on it to support your lifestyle. Like, and that was big. She's like, you don't want to hate what you do because it's hard, or the money.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I know I got chills when you just said that. And I know people listening are going to get chills with that. Yeah, we live in this world where we're consuming so much content, and we just think that like everything and anything can get turned into a business, which it can. But also, like, it's so healthy and so necessary to be able to separate those things. And I think Kristen's exactly right. If that's where your income was coming from, let's fast forward 10, 15 years into the future, you have a family, you have all of these things. Like, that's a beautiful point. And I think we wrap our identity up so much in what we do that that's just such an important message. I'm trying to like highlight that in every way I can put the words together, but it's such an important message for people to hear.
Yeah, and I think it changed everything, like from then on, of just the way I think about it, the way I feel about it. And I, just decided to really bring in, and during our hot seat group, retreat group number 3, shout out, thank you for this. They said, bring what you love and your passion into your business. If you're an entertainer, entertain on reels. If you're connections, connect with your clients, nurture them, create that space that gives you those same feelings that you love about doing theater, and bring it into your business. And those people that vibe with you are going to come, and it's just going to bring you so much more joy. and they
And
were
so you're
right.
on what, 2 years since you joined Soul Tribe?
Yes.
And
It's
it's
been
kind of
2 years.
wild. I hate to like be this woo about it, but like if you put a pin in, the retreat was 1 year in, you were still feeling like I've been doing the work, I've been doing the work. I'm still seeing subpar results. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but you still weren't feeling like you figured this thing out yet. The last year, Paloma, has been insane watching your business grow and flourish and you grow and flourish, that like you can't deny that there's an energetic thing to that. Or else
Yeah.
why? I mean, you were doing everything else that you were supposed to be doing, but once you had that shift in your mindset, the results actually came after that too, which is wild. Which of course there's a couple little like strategies and tactics,
Mhm.
but not that much.
No, and I remember you telling me like, I don't know what to tell you. It's a mindset thing. Like
Yeah,
it
and
is.
you're like, bitch, that's so frustrating, but sometimes it is.
Yeah. And it's just,
Uh,
it's been really fun to kind of go through that and just to like love my job and my career
mm, yeah.
and to see all these steps that like have gotten me there. And I remember you also saying like, I know it's frustrating, but like you're gonna see why this is happening. Like
Mhm.
eventually when you get there, it's gonna be like,
Gonna
oh,
click.
that's
Yeah.
why that had to happen.
Yeah.
And like I almost didn't go to the retreat. And I feel like that
Mhm.
point, like the retreat was amazing, the whole
Yeah.
thing, but I feel like the reason I was there was for that.
For that breakthrough. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm. That means so much to me just hearing you say that. I mean, I know that's your truth, but thank you for saying it out loud because that just validates so much to me too, that that impact was made. And yeah, that means the world to me. So now we're even a year after retreat, Paloma has seen really great success in her business. This isn't going to make sense for all listeners, but we started something inside of Soul Tribe called the Intensive. So I've been working really close one-on-one with Paloma and 5 other women where we were talking every 2 weeks, really high, action. And I know extensions is kind of your new journey, but like, where do you stand now with theater, with the passions, with like, does Broadway still live on your vision board? Have you fully released that? Do you still like tiptoe in that as a hobby, or where do you stand with that now?
I think Broadway's always going to be
Yeah,
on my vision board. It's
good.
always going to be
I hope
something
it
in my
is.
heart. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
maybe one day, you never know. You can act
Yeah.
until you die. Like this is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think it's always going to live there. And it's
Mm-hmm.
something that I try to do at least once a year if I have the
Mm-hmm.
availability. I recently just did a show last year and like I was able to get the lead part. I played Olive in the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, if anyone is a theater person. And it was like my return after 3 years of
Mm-hmm.
shutdown and not performing. And it just does something for my soul that like this is where I belong. I belong on stage. I belong like singing just makes me so happy, dancing, be entertaining, telling stories.
Yeah.
It's just something that I love so much and something that like I've been able to bring into my business where my clients, that's the first thing they ask. Are you doing a show right now? Are you
Love
in
that.
anything? Are you acting? Like, so it's
Mm.
been like, that warms my heart to
Yeah.
think people think of me that way. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, you, like, yes, you do my hair, but you're an actress. Like,
Yeah. And I love
um,
that you share that with your clients too, because like, again, a lot of people can do great hair, but it's those little connection points outside, like what makes you a person outside of just doing the hair. And so I love that your clients are in on that with you as well. I think that's really special.
yeah, they are. And it's just like I try to do it as much as I can. I mean, my parents, like I said, they're involved in the arts as well. So it's just
Mm.
always around me. It's
Yeah.
part of me. And I try to do at least one musical a year if I
I
can.
love that. Yeah, that's amazing. That makes me happy. And so you see that continuing to be kind of how you juggle both things. And God, if it's meant to be and you have some big break and someone discovers, maybe they discover this podcast and hear your story. Someone discovers something one day. I love that that always lives there. But I also don't think realistically with the conclusions you've come to and even the success you've built, like maybe it wouldn't even be in alignment for that to be a full-time career, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think about that too. Like if I was on Broadway, it's 8 shows a week.
Yeah.
You know, you're always there. And then especially if you're a top bill, like people go to see you. I'm like, there's no way I would be able to get
Yeah.
out of
You'd live a
my
very
job.
different life.
I'd be in New York, far away from my family,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have the flexibility that I have to just choose and say, you
Yeah.
know what, my time is open right now. I can do a show.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that if an opportunity presented, I could not say no. There
Of
would be
course not.
no way that I
Yes.
could say no to that.
Uh-huh.
But I think I feel like very at peace with
Mm-hmm.
if it doesn't happen, it's okay because I'm still fulfilling that dream of performing that's really what I want. Like, I
Yeah.
really just want to be able to be on stage and do it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whatever capacity that is.
Gives you that thrill, that high. I know you've said it probably in a lot of different words, but I'm just going to ask it one more time. And if something comes to you, great. If it doesn't, no big deal, no pressure. But like, if you could go back and talk to yourself either at the retreat, pre-retreat, wherever you feel like it was really the lowest, most lost feeling, what would you say?
I would just say, hold on to your faith
Mm,
and trust that what's meant for you and what your purpose is going to reveal itself. And when you live in alignment, the opportunities come. They show
mm,
up, the money shows up, you meet the right people, and you have to have a very strong faith that, like, to just believe it, to put that
mm,
out there that I don't know how this is going to happen, but it's going to happen. And
mm.
I know I'm going to be okay.
And just keep putting one foot in front of another. And I want to say you, Paloma, like as your coach, that's something I see in you so strongly is like, even if you can't see the entire end picture, you just show up month after month after month after month. You're like, well, this kind of knocked me down. This went okay, this, and you just keep taking one step in front of another. And now, after all this time, we can see how much that has paid off. But I can only even imagine 5 more years from now how that's going to continue to compound and pay off. So again, I am so grateful that you came on. I there were so many times that I like got chills when we were recording this. So I know that those are messages that like people need to hear. Is there anything else that you feel called to share or anything else you want to dive into?
I think I would just say, like, if you are experiencing what I went through,
Mm,
just like really hold on to the fact that, like, committing to something doesn't mean it changes who you are. Like, it
mm,
doesn't mean that you're something else. If your path changes, that's okay. Like, you don't
mm.
have to hold on to these things that, like, you thought it could have been. And
These identities,
these
yeah.
identity things are like what's meant for you and your path. When, like, I have to keep saying it, when you're living in
Mhm.
alignment, like,
Yeah.
just trust that intuition and keep going. And
Okay, so let's dive deeper. What does living in alignment mean to you? Because like I know what you're saying, but there are some people that like they hear that and they don't even really get to comprehend what you're saying. What do you mean by living in alignment?
I just feel like there's things you think you should do and things that feel right.
Mm,
And, like, when I, like, for me, when I know I'm living in alignment is if something comes up, I know, like, I just know this is what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, it's $1,200. I don't care.
mm,
I'm
mm,
doing it
mm,
because I'm going to get the money, and it's going to show up. And, like, it
mm.
time and time again, it always does. It
Yeah.
always, like, a check shows up in the mail, or I meet somebody that says, like, hey, you can stay with me. Or, like, I don't know how it happens, but I just know that, like, the good things I start seeing, like, when I am. If
Mhm.
I'm doing something that I'm like, "Mm, maybe I shouldn't be doing that," or maybe,
You get
like, I'm
those
gonna,
little pings and things that you know something's off.
yes, like, logistically, it
Mhm.
sounds like the right thing, but I keep hitting a block after block after block. It's like,
Mhm.
this isn't in alignment. You're not supposed to go that way. And when I
Mhm.
do just follow what my spirit says and what
Mhm.
I feel like like want to do, and I noticed the opportunities show up.
Mhm.
And, like, I'm very woo. I grew up that way.
Mhm.
My mom is
Mhm.
that way. This has just always been a part of our life. So it's
Yeah.
something I've just had. And I don't know how to explain that. I don't
Yeah.
know how to
It's just
explain that.
living, conspiring with your intuition, like your life
Yes.
having a lifelong journey of conspiring with your intuition and not fighting against it and just trusting that you will know, even if it
Yeah.
seems like you don't know. If you get quiet enough, it's in there. And no coach, no class, no anything can tell you that. Like
No.
that's an internal thing.
I
Yeah.
just never have a doubt. Like, when it's
Mm,
something like that, it's a strong hit and it's like,
mm,
do it. That's what you're supposed
yeah.
to do. And I don't have any doubt about it being the wrong thing or that it's going to fail. I don't always know how it's going to happen, but I know it is.
Yeah. That's why I love the quote. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Because you know when it's a hell yes. You know very clearly when it's a hell yes. So I love that. Great messages. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Anything else that you wanna share?
No, I think that's
No.
everything.
I feel
Yeah.
really good. Thank you again. I know this is going to resonate with who it needs to resonate with, and I'm curious to see years from now. Maybe we'll have you back on and just share what, continuing to live in alignment with, for these next few years, what that will bring. And I'll put all of Paloma's socials and stuff in the show notes description. So if you guys feel called or connected to this in any way. I mean, I'm assuming you're cool with Instagram DMs, right,
Yeah,
Paloma?
yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
I mean, I vividly remember years ago when I was first on a podcast, just getting all those messages and building those connections. So, like, if this speaks to you, do not hesitate to reach out to Paloma, because sometimes you just need someone who's been where you've been, just a few steps ahead of you, to be like, okay, yeah, like that really landed. Help me with this. So, I will definitely leave all your information
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. And I just want to say thank you for holding space for me and for your
Always.
guidance along this journey and creating this space for all of us to
Mm.
do that and to thrive.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you. I would give you the biggest hug if you were here right now. Thank you. Thank you, Paloma. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Like I said, everything that we talked about will be linked in the show notes, and I will chat with you all next week. Bye.